Learjet belonging to Wally Hilliard, owner of the Huffman Aviation Flight School, where Muhammad Atta and Marwan al-Shehhi were learning to fly, was busted at Orlando Executive Airport in late July of 2000, carrying 43 pounds of heroin. Read Welcome to Terrorland and learn all about it.
There he is, Daniel Hopsicker in his own voice. May he rest in peace, the late Daniel Hopsicker. We are about to read all about it here at Neighborhood News. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Terrorland, Muhammad Atta, and the 9/11 cover-up in Florida by Daniel Hopsicker. So we have Terry and Mark here with us. Hey, guys.
Hey there.
How's it going?
Hey. And Terry will be providing most of the reading. He'll read the introduction, probably chapter 1. We'll breeze through a few minutes here, but we just tell a few stories, talk a little bit about Daniel Hopsicker and our own knowledge of this book and the scenario. I can say I'd like to tell a little story just about how we came across these books. We were looking for a book in the studio that we had multiple copies of to be able to bring this to the audience here this evening. And we had Welcome to Terrorland because I met Daniel Hopsicker at a charrette many years ago. I guess many years ago, I probably could pinpoint. I think it was 2021 that I met Daniel Hopsicker. Could have been 2022 with George Webb and a bunch of great researchers in the research community down in Venice, Florida. And he came out to meet us, and we bought a box of his books for $500. He sort of didn't really believe that we were going to buy his books, and we were like, here, Dan, here's $500. How many books can we get? And he's like, whoa, yeah, let's go. And he ran home and got a big box of books. And I wish we had them better organized in the studio. We would certainly appreciate any visitors here for our own studio charrette to help us clean out that back room of books and get them properly organized. There's probably about 10 of these floating around, and we got 4 of them out. So if anybody does want to come visit for our future readings, you could come in and share a book with us. We do have a few extra copies, but there's one for me, Terry, and Mark, and we will read probably about a half hour, maybe chapter 1, introduction, and just a few things here this evening. But yeah, Venice, Florida. I don't know, Mark, do you want to read the inside cover for us or just the back? There's all sorts of fascinating, so much fascinating stuff.
Well, I've been with Venice here because I always thought this guy was over like in Deerfield Beach on the other side of Florida, but
Deerfield Beach, huh?
Yeah.
No, Venice is on the Gulf Coast.
Right.
A lovely place.
Something about the flying school. I thought it was in Delray or, Deerfield Beach or Delray Beach or whatever over there. But on the, in that Fort Lauderdale, Miami corridor.
Mm-hmm.
But here, Venice, Florida, where 3 of the 4 terrorist pilots learned to fly. See, I thought that was on the other side of the state. So this is, new to me too. This is the biggest September that received no serious scrutiny for what might reveal about the nature of the terrorist conspiracy that resulted in the 9/11 attack until now. And this is where the journalist Daniel Hopsicker went searching in Venice for evidence that Muhammad Atta and his Hamburg cadre received outside help while they were in the U.S., as authorities initially slated, from a shadowy global network or even from foreign governments. What he found was a massive FBI-led cover-up in progress in Florida, seemingly designed to conceal the true story of what had been going on in Venice, Florida, while Muhammad Atta and his Hamburg cadre were conspirators that made their home away from home for a year and a half. The book's packed with stunning revelations. The attempt on the life of President George W. Bush on the morning of the 9/11 attack at his hotel in Sarasota, Florida. I thought he was in New York at a school.
That's what I thought too.
And he was reading nursery rhymes.
He was in Sarasota, Florida with the iPet goat.
Yeah,
iPet goat. Him at the school with the book upside down.
That
was in Sarasota, Florida, and then he went from there, I believe, straight to Lanscombe Air Force Base in Louisiana on his way to Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska.
So this book's
which is where he ended up. Yeah.
Muhammad Atta's American girlfriend, Amanda Keller, intimidated into silence by the FBI. At Atta's meeting in Key West with 2 German men who flew in just to see him during a booze and drug-filled 3-day weekend.
Damn.
Wow. So Muhammad Atta, yeah, I mean, that's obviously the whole book is Muhammad Atta's on the cover, and it is almost like the story of Muhammad Atta.
You had family in Venice. I mean, did you like this Hoffman Aviation International, the Venice?
No, nobody
Service?
down there knows any of this. They're all just retirees playing
This
pickleball and some golf. Like the idea that any of this is happening under their noses. But the Venice airport, in fact, like as we were telling stories here to start, so George was down there visiting Daniel Hopsicker, just on another charrette, and they were over at the Venice airport doing a like on the ground reporting about Venice airport, and how there's no tower there, so you can come in and out, you just come in and out as you wish. You don't have to report. You pull you fly your plane in from anywhere in the world, and you walk off your plane into the car in the parking lot, and you drive away into America, and you're on your way, because it's just this tiny little airport. And Vern Buchanan, the local congressman down there, who is, I haven't brushed up too much on my Vern Buchanan research to tell you exactly this, depths of his deep state inner workings. He's a Republican, though, definitely a Republican guy. I don't even know if he's still the representative down there, but yeah, he flew right in his Learjet as Dan and George were sitting there. It was an amazing thing. Yeah, no, it was incredible. So yeah, he flew right into the airport, and they were giving a report right in front of the bunker, the Huffman Aviation bunker there at Venice Airport. Just another part of the story, I guess. But there it is. Vern Buchanan
there with Bush reading the book upside down.
I was looking for that, actually. I'll get back to back to looking for that. You guys talk while I look for the upside down.
You need to turn it around.
Upside down book picture.
I gotta see this before I start reading the introduction. We gotta see the book.
Yeah, there it is.
Zoom in on that shit. This is real.
You didn't know that it was upside down?
I did not know this.
Yeah. It's like
he's not reading shit.
He's America. That's yeah, whatever. I mean, so much intrigue, and 9/11's hot right now. Tucker Carlson bringing Kurt Weldon out for a big interview, and of course, Pam Bondi and Anna Paulina Luna, and so much of the disclosure crowd there is pumping 9/11 and 9/11 disclosure, which is why we thought, obviously, Welcome to Terrorland would be an awesome first choice for our reboot of our reading commentary show that we're beginning here.
Well, what's going to be fascinating as we read this, because when it was published, and like how much of this will be brought out, and then how much will we look at, or will it, how much of it will be substantiated, how much of it won't be, or
how much are they going to cover up? How much are they? I wonder sometimes, like right now, are we helping more with the exposure, or are we helping those to covering it up, realize where they've got to cover their tracks? I mean, there's nothing we can do but just, do the work and push ahead and do the research and try as best we can for truth. But you do sometimes wonder if who's ahead in the game, and if they're trying to cover their tracks.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, certainly
$35.18.
I suppose after this reading, they'll be a little bit used. So yeah, that's the used price there, isn't it?
The printing press.
So what do you think? Should we read a little more of the front cover, back cover, or any of the accolades? Anything else you see interesting here, Mark, that you want to dive into before Terry begins with the introduction? I think reading the introduction, here's the in memoriam page, just not too many pictures. That's why I'll be bringing up graphics here is the plan, while Terry reads a little bit and Mark will make commentary. I'll make that big for everyone. There's the picture in the front there.
Remember when they didn't want anybody to see that?
Well,
yeah, they don't want anybody to see a lot of the videos.
Too disturbing is what they said. We can't show that. It's too disturbing.
But yeah, any commentary? And then Terry, I think, dive into introduction at some point.
What are they hiding down in Venice, Florida? Welcome to Terrorland. It answers this question with the shocking results of a 2-year-long investigation. This is a story of Muhammad Atta, a black-hearted psychopath in Florida, a pirate's paradise. If either had been different, September 11th might never have happened. Now he's good at it because I did see him in this book. This Rudy Deckers, Huffman Aviation, was having trouble paying its rent on time for 6 months in a row before 9/11. Yet was able to pay a $50,000 judgment a month after the 9/11 attack. And then he brought up Muhammad Ali's American Girlfriend, speaks about Atta for the first time. The sex, the drugs, the drinking, and the meetings in Florida with Swiss and German nationals whose names have never before been revealed.
Here, I'll read about Rudy Deckers here. Rudy Deckers was a Dutch businessman and convicted drug trafficker, the former owner of Huffman Aviation. Oh, yeah, look at that. Died April 2024, about a year ago.
Done.
He became the subject of worldwide attention after the September 11th attacks when it was revealed Deckers had trained 3 of the hijackers, Mohammed Atta, Ziad Jarrah, and Marwan al-Shehi, who crashed American Airlines Flight 11, United Airlines Flight 93, and United Airlines Flight 175, respectively, into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center and in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Sort of the story. So the story goes, at least. I don't think there's any plane in Pennsylvania, that's for sure. Deckers was born on July 27th, 1956, in Apeldoorn, Netherlands. He grew up in Jordan, or in the Jordan neighborhood of Amsterdam. So he's a Dutch guy, and very interesting there. Hey, everybody in the chat. Awesome stuff. Yes, George Webb did do some awesome, great episodes with Dan Hopsicker. And unfortunately, the Masters of the Universe at YouTube chose to cancel George's YouTube channel where those videos could be found. But they're out there. We'll have to scrounge them up somewhere.
And Swiss nationals were. I don't know.
The German and Swiss nationals that met Atta in Egypt, you're saying? Yeah, of course. It's like paperclip Nazis. Or not really. I mean, the paperclip Nazis got to be, their paper got to be clipped. And they got to come to America. So it's like if you were a Nazi that didn't get the paperclip.
Or
and
bankers. Could they be bankers?
Well, they're Nazis. I mean, they're Nazis after the war going places. And some didn't get the sweet, ticket to America. They had to go to Egypt or Argentina or wherever else. Although Argentina was probably a pretty sweet ticket back then too.
How about this Pelican Alley restaurant? And do you even know where that is?
Pelican Alley restaurant? No.
On the back. You said you were in Venice.
They're in Venice.
Oh yeah. I've been here's. I don't think I've been to the Pelican per se, although I guess
this restaurant a half block from Atta's rented house in Venice was the scene of a half block from Atta's rented house in Venice. How far would it have been from your?
Oh, I don't know. We've been all over Venice. We've had a couple charrettes in Venice. So there's the Pelican Alley. I feel like I could have been there. Yeah, no, Venice is a very swanky place. Venice,
living it up.
Was the scene of an altercation between Atta and Marwan over money just a week before the attack. The waitress thought they were mob. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say so. Look at those digs.
Yeah.
Man, that's beautiful. I want to go.
We'll have to, we got to get all the charrettes back on the schedule. Absolutely. We've had some. I know.
I'm a smaller guy. I can fit in like a suitcase.
Yeah, we'll get.
Give me some.
We'll get it all back on the schedule. But let's dive in here. Where that's
Hopsicker's reporting should already be as famous as that of Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, but their stuff's kind of been debunked.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, what do you think, Terry? You want to start us out on page 13, the introduction? We could at least read the introduction, maybe chapter 1, see how fast we go. You do your speed, whatever speed you do. Everyone,
I'll just read a little bit.
Everyone will be happy with your speed, no doubt.
So
there you go. All right.
One day while fumbling through my morning routine 2 years ago, I happened to glance at the Today Show while making coffee and watched a Boeing 767 cross the sky right over Katie Couric's shoulder in the monitor above the news desk and explode into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. It was the most surreal event ever seen on this planet. Minutes later, I was among the untold millions worldwide watching human beings hanging out of 100-story windows. And then they began to jump. Tiny human figures, barely visible, wavered through the smoke on the upper floors. They were specks against the gleaming superstructures as they fell, bathed in the light of a late summer morning in New York. U.S. networks soon cut away on the pretext that it was just too horrible to air, as the figures began dropping in groups of twos. But you only needed to see one body fall to feel a gut-wrenching anguish tear at your stomach. Many, we learned later, jumped holding hands, and all I remember thinking was, those poor people. Given the rate of falling bodies, something like 125 miles per hour, someone calculated that before they hit the pavement, they had been falling for 8 or 9 seconds. It must have seemed an eternity. Minutes earlier, some of them would have been stirring sweet and low and non-dairy coffee whitener into their mugs before heading to their desks. And now this. A fireman looked into the camera of the two French brothers shooting a documentary that morning, later aired on CBS, and asked, how bad does it have to be before jumping out a 100-story window seemed like the better alternative? If you fall from a great height, you're dead before you hit the ground, I read somewhere, because your heart stops. Although I want to, somehow I find that hard to believe. I have an unforgettable image of a man dangling out of a window on an upper story, being shot from a camera a long distance away, so you couldn't see his face distinctly in the wavering haze. He was still dressed in summer clothes, wearing white pants. He was soon to be dead. I was grateful not to see a close-up of his face that would show whether he already knew it. He was someone just like me, except I was sitting at home sipping coffee, and he was getting ready to leap to his death. Which, as I read this, I remember watching the live footage, and I think because I was there and I witnessed it while I was at work, and seeing it, and now reading the accounts of other people, I mean, it's bringing me kind of a little bit of sadness and making the hair stand up on my arms. But I've never read anything like this before, and it's kind of
Here's the falling man picture. I didn't really, I mean, it's amazing. There's actually a Wikipedia page for the falling man. And this was the falling man is a photograph taken by Associated Press photographer Richard Drew of a man falling from the World Trade Center during the 9/11 attacks in New York City. The unidentified man in the image was trapped on the upper floors of the North Tower, and it is unclear whether he fell while searching for safety or jumped to escape the fire and smoke. The photograph was taken at 9:41 and 15 seconds a.m. The photograph was widely criticized after publication in international media on September 12, 2001, with readers labeling the image as disturbing, cold-blooded, ghoulish, and sadistic. However, in the years following, the photo has gained acclaim. Elton John, who purchased it for his personal collection, called it one of the most perfect photographs ever taken. That's just weird.
It's crazy to see that.
That's an interesting fun fact, unfun fact. What do you call not fun facts? I guess, but yeah, Elton John.
Fact right there.
Elton John purchased the photo. I wonder if he purchased it as an NFT, or how you even purchase that other than just from, I guess, from the AP.
Could you imagine spending eternity falling?
Well,
you just be falling.
Yes.
I mean, that guy.
Well, you want to continue on? Yeah. Need a beverage? You need whatever?
Yeah, I'm good. It's just interesting that I've never read anything like this before, and I think it kind of takes me back to the day that I saw that, and you can't really put it in perspective, but that's how good the read is. Oh, man,
we've been through a lot here, America. Yeah. Let's keep it together and forge ahead.
Yeah.
Yep. You want to continue?
Yeah. After it says 2 years later, the memory remains indelible. Later, someone posted still shots on the internet capturing an image of a man in white pants hurling past the building on his way down. It was him. At some point soon thereafter, I discovered in myself a burning desire to understand how this had come to pass. Here's the purpose of this book. Those who saw innocent people slaughtered owe an obligation to bring the perpetrators to justice. Justice, vengeance, a duty to our dead, call it what you will. It demands adherence to a simple progression. Identify the people responsible, find them, and bring them to justice. All of them, even ones with non-Arab names, should any be found. We owe it to them. It's a sacred duty which is somehow part of what being human means. If I were murdered in cold blood, I'd want someone to do it for me. But there's a problem. Let me put it bluntly. Our government has not told us the truth about what happened, nor do they appear to be committed to tracking down and punishing everyone responsible. Individuals in the U.S. government possess an agenda that differs from this one. It has become painfully clear. This discovery was almost as searing and painful as the Black Day itself. In the aftermath of the attack, we learned, and in short order, that we, the people, were to be kept in the dark about the most momentous event of the still young 21st century, just as we have for the last half of the 20th century. Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the thing that like
kept in the dark.
the 2001. So any child that would have been born then is already like graduated college per se, and
Oh,
it's,
absolutely, yeah.
they're
Married with children.
yeah, it's,
Many of them. Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it, but I mean that.
This is what they must have felt like. Weird tangent, but Pearl Harbor. You see it, and it's there. And I saw this as it was unfolding live, and now you're reading about it. To place yourself in something that you're reading that's printed, and to have it happen years and years ago, I'm like, wow.
And Weldon, that came on, that was the truth here, and playing the fire department, where they had gotten up to the 70th floor where this plane had come in. And it was like, we had where there were two small fires and we can handle this. And then the building collapsed,
Right,
so.
right. No, I mean, they blew it up. They're bombs. Everybody, I mean, there's all sorts of testimony nowadays about people with the bombs in the basement. And not to mention, I mean, what's it called? 1993, World Trade Center 1993 was also like a clear, run at this thing the first time. Here's the Kurt Weldon. I'll put this on screen, but we won't listen to the audio. Yeah, it's the same thing as 1993. Bomb in the building. They put the bomb in the building and they blew them up, and that's all there is to it. I mean, they blew up a third building and they didn't even run a plane into that one. You know about Building 7, of course, or maybe not,
because
of course.
it had been weakened by the other buildings. They said, building stuff had fallen on it.
We can either confirm or deny them.
Mm-hmm. Here's Kurt Weldon. After 20 years in Congress, Kurt Weldon was about to become chairman of the House Armed Services Committee when he publicly questioned the accuracy of the 9/11 report. In retaliation, the Bush administration sent federal agents to his daughter's house and ended his political career. At 77, Weldon has decided to tell the truth about what actually happened on September 11th, 2021. This is certainly a fascinating and worthwhile interview of Tucker's with some information, some maybe misinformation, disinformation, or just narrative control. I shouldn't say miss or dis.
Well, that's kind of
maybe I should, but narrative control. Narrative control.
Yes,
I would.
That's safe.
I would cherish. I mean, I would love to be able to hear Dan Hopsicker's opinion of it. And unfortunately, he's not here to see it. Maybe fortunately, he probably would have. I don't think Dan Hopsicker would have had very positive things to say about the Kurt Weldon Tucker interview. But you never know. Anyway, continue on. Yeah, you want to keep going?
As it goes through here, it's like we'll critique the book and the narratives that are being out now and what we recall. So the book could be a nice refresher course for all of our brains.
That's what we're doing. Yeah, continue on, Terry. Yeah, you good?
Yeah, I'll read some more. To date, the American people still have still not been briefed about what happened that day and why. We didn't hear the cockpit recordings. We didn't see pictures of the terrorists boarding the planes. We weren't told how they managed to get on board. We haven't been told why. Afterwards, the FBI, as if by magic, knew the identity of the terrorist ringleader almost immediately. We, the people, weren't shown evidence that would prove the government's contentions beyond a reasonable doubt. When it came to answering questions about the attack, the message the government delivered to the people was, "You're not cleared for that information." Never in this nation's history, at least never in living memory, has the flow of information from government to press and public been shut down so quickly and comprehensively. Washington, the place from which American official story emanates, went into almost total information blackout. Some people found themselves reading Pravda. Overnight, the Bush administration laid down an across-the-board and centralized control of the public's right to know.
Here's on the screen the hijackers. This is an interesting one because it's got thanks to the History Channel for this graphic, but it attaches each one to this is American Airlines 11, American Airlines 77, United Airlines 93, United Airlines 175. So one less individual on United Airlines 93. I wonder who that guy was.
He's still partying in Venice.
Yeah,
He bowed out. He's
got a job at the Pelican Cafe or whatever.
He's safe.
He just went into become a bus boy at the Pelican, right?
Yes, he's living life. I don't know if that's right,
but
true,
that's the crew there. That at least we have been told is the crew. But yeah, continue on. Yeah. We'll probably just do the introduction. You got about like 6 or 7 more pages.
Woo,
Why? That's a lot?
Oh man,
I'll take over if you need to.
In the wake of the 9/11 attack, officials in Washington promised explanations. They reneged. Secretary of State Powell promised a white paper. We're still waiting. It was left to British Prime Minister Tony Blair to present the prosecution's case against bin Laden, and he sketched out the Cliff Notes version of the evidence. Tony Blair said, Al-Qaeda is a terrorist organization which tries to a global network. That made sense. The idea that Muhammad Atta and his henchmen needed help from an international organization while they were in the U.S. was easy to understand. Contacts are drying up.
Blair, no doubt of bin Laden's involvement. Yeah, Tony Blair, he's been exited stage left, certainly. Tony Blair has. But he did give very important testimony back at the run up to war.
I've lost my place while you were reading there, but it was and I mean, this was Cash Patel. The FBI investigation into the plot is preliminary, and the conspiracy's precise nature probably will not be understood for years, the paper said. So maybe now we'll get some 9/11 truth with Cash into the FBI.
Wouldn't that be something? Here, I'm going to read this. Show Mark where you're at so he can take over from you. Any action taken will be against the terrorist network of bin Laden. As for the Taliban, they can surrender the terrorists or face the consequences. And again, in any action, the aim will be to eliminate the military hardware, cut off their finances, disrupt their supplies, target their troops, not civilians.
I have a different book.
Tony Blair.
I'm in minor Roman numerals in the introduction, so it's like,
oh, that's interesting. Here, what page you on?
This is 14. This is 15.
Have a different version.
What are you on? 16? What page you on?
16.
Where?
Yeah, but no, that's where I was at, though. I thought
that made
sense.
Here, Mark. Give him that right there.
the 19 hijackers.
No.
The FBI.
Starting from there. One of you guys read. Get us through the introduction there. I'll keep bringing up graphics. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Here, I'll read this comment here.
That
This is
made sense.
Brennan insisting on visa approval for terrorists in Saudi Arabia. Atta's realtor in Florida. A Marathras letter to National Enquirer in Florida. All anomalies. A lot of anomalies. Yes. Thank you, Jason. Absolutely. All right. Yeah. Somebody go.
You ready?
No, I'm still.
All right, I'll take over. My voice is warming up. That made sense. The idea that Muhammad Atta and his henchmen needed help from an international organization while they were in the U.S. was easy to understand. Logistical support is difficult to arrange from caves, but what kind of global network? Blair didn't say. Blair's global network remained elusive, unnamed, shadowy, and undefined. Several weeks later, the FBI denied that this global network existed and proposed instead a lone cadre theory, which became the operative assumption in their investigation. The 19 hijackers who carried out the worst act of terror ever to occur on U.S. soil worked with little outside help as a single integrated group, the Washington Post reported. As more of the conspiracy becomes understood, government sources now say that the investigation so far suggests that 19 had no major help in the United States. The FBI investigation into the plot is preliminary, and the conspiracy's precise nature probably will not be understood for years, the paper said.
You know, this reminds me of like the Michigan militia and the Gretchen
Whitmer
kidnapping. You know,
kidnapping,
is that what this is? Or is that what this was?
Well, I think that's what.
Yeah.
I think that's to put Hopsicker's conclusion in a nutshell. I feel like that's I hypothesize that's what we will get as our hypothesis. But I mean, I'm sure much more nuanced than that. So yeah, continue.
If it is a conspiracy, whose precise nature won't be understood for years, we wondered, how can the FBI already know the terrorists had received no outside help? The FBI, of course, has spent several decades living down their lone gunman theory of the JFK assassination. Perhaps this is why their lone cadre theory has not been widely accepted. An agency with a marked preference for lone gunmen was floating a lone cadre trial balloon. Wow. Addis cadre was a lone cadre, acting alone, at least while in the U.S. There was no one else involved, no higher ups. I find that hard to believe. It's insane.
Plausible deniability.
A year and a half just hanging out and learning how to fly planes into buildings. And
I don't care how you
higher-ups.
get it. Don't tell
Who
me.
financed
Just get
that?
the result. I need you to do this. Don't tell me how you did it. I don't want to know nothing. Just
Yeah.
get it done.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like this Rudy Deckers guy financed it.
Who did?
That Dutch guy, Rudy Deckers, that we were
Yeah,
looking at
Dutch,
when
Okay.
Mark was looking at the back cover there. I think he's going to be. So as we read this book, as you know, I mean, we're just in the introduction. We're going to hope to do this whole thing here. I'll look for pictures of Rudy Deckers if there are some. But this, we hit this, back about 20 minutes ago. Rudy Deckers is the Dutch businessman, convicted drug trafficker, former owner of Huffman Aviation, and Huffman Aviation
Thank you.
is this Venice flight school. So he became the subject of worldwide attention after 9/11 when it was revealed that Deckers was the one who trained Atta, Jarrah, and al-Shahi. So like the three guys on three different flights were all trained by this Deckers. So I mean, yeah, this Deckers guy is going to be a big linchpin in the story. And Huffman Aviation, his company, is also if there's Huffman Aviation, also going to be the other key to the story. So those are, brush up on your Rudy Deckers and your Huffman Aviation there, folks, because that will be things that we revisit and continue to hear as we read the book. Yeah.
Sir.
You got it? You know where you're at? Or Mark, want to go? One of you guys.
I'm
there you
marked.
go.
Tony
All right.
Blair's global network statements had been rendered inoperative without explanation by the FBI. Think 19 lone gunmen, a squadron of Lee Harvey Oswalds. Think Watergate, Whitewater, Kennedy. Think cover-up. Through it all, no one in the major media, America's vaunted free press, looked askance. For anyone who has lived through this country's recent history, there was an unmistakable and familiar feeling in the air. Another cover-up was descending like a blanket of fog. Was it plausible that the 9/11 terrorist conspiracy, presumably launched by Al-Qaeda, brought down the World Trade Center without outside assistance? During those brief moments when the FBI was presumably looking for international networks which may have assisted the terrorists, were any organizations protected from scrutiny? The September 11th attack is fast becoming one of the biggest mysteries in American history. Worse, even the pretense of respect for the public's right to know has now been discarded. After the Kennedy assassination, for example, the government at least felt obliged to appoint an independent investigation, and quickly. Forget for a moment that the Warren Commission was stacked with political hacks. At least the forms of representative democracy were respected. 40 years ago is the supposed bad old days of official secrecy. Before we moved into the sunlight of our more enlightened times, the government at least told the American public where supposed assassin Oswald would have been living at a secret base in Japan and Russia, New Orleans, Mexico City, Dallas. Now even that bit of less obliged is a thing of the past because they're lying to us about when Atta arrived in the U.S. and where he spent his time while he was here. Worse, 19 months after the attack, the independent 9/11 investigation had still not gotten underway. Bush administration spokesmen like Vice President Cheney fiercely lobbied Congress in an attempt to prevent any independent investigation at all. The Bush administration was successful, not in capturing bin Laden, but in thwarting the creation of an independent commission for over a year. On the 9/11 investigation, the Bush administration adopted the same strategy they scorned when Clinton used it during the Monica debate. Deny, 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 the Monica debate. Oof. It's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, but we got the Patriot Act and we lost our civil rights or civil liberties. And
Yeah, well, ain't that the whole conspiracy right there, right? Is like it was 9/11 just a
Alex Jones did that end
a
game.
live exercise, the same way COVID was a live exercise to eradicate our freedoms and liberties or to attack, circumvent our freedoms and liberties. That is what so many people have come to feel and think and be suspicious of over the years vis-a-vis 9/11. Here's just pictures of Huffman Aviation. I feel like
That's
this
it right there.
well,
That's
there's
where it
that
went
one.
down.
That's the school,
Ooh,
or
look
like
at
that's
that.
the entrance to the school, and then here's like the hangar. George and Hopsicker would have been like just to the left or right of this. They had their back up against the hangar when Vern Buchanan flew in on his Learjet. But there's the hangar. So yeah, the hangar is there at the Venice airport. Nice, just tiny little hangar. You know,
Yeah.
like if you're flying.
For
just,
some reason, I thought it would be bigger.
I mean, that's why
You
a
know,
lot of people
like I
think that they were really training for crop dusters because they were training on crop dusters. Like the planes they were using were not 747s and 767s. They were these tiny little planes. And so people think that it was really more so like an anthrax attack that was planned, and that maybe 9/11 and the bombing and everything was even like a secondary plan, or two plans were in action. There were two 9/11s and two deep states going at it. I don't know
Wasn't there
what
something at that time too that they when they were getting their lessons to fly, they weren't learning to land. They were just learning to fly.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and how suspicious that was. I'll tell you, I remember being a little kid and vacationing in Venice. Just, this is an anecdotal story, I guess, but like I remember being a little kid, vacationing in Venice, being on the beach, and seeing huge. And I was a freshman in college, 2021, so this would have probably been 16, 17 years old or whatever, and taking a family vacation down there or whatever. And I remember seeing planes flying all around off the coast. You just like, you'd be there on the beach and there'd be all sorts of different aerial activity, and you never really thought much of it, I guess. Just like, oh, there's an airport and people are out here flying off the water.
Cocaine, right? I don't know.
Well, it's there's a lot of rich people around, and they've got their little airport and whatever, and so you don't think much of it. But now all this is coming out. But these are the little planes. You can see the little Huffman Aviation logo on there. Here's another one. That one for some reason had the tip ripped off. I don't know why that was the case in there. Here's a nice these are tiny. I'm sure they had different types of planes with. I mean, this one's super tiny.
Yeah,
That's
they
a
really
Piper.
bumped it up.
Perfect name. It just feels like Piper. It's a little Piper. It's like perfect name for that plane. It's no Beast. It's a Piper, but that's what they were flying. And Huffman Aviation is definitely a key to the story. Got a couple more pages of the intro. Let's plow through it here. You'll get through that intro, and then we'll call it
I'm doing it, man.
We'll call it a day.
Getting her done. Yeah.
Terry's doing great here, folks.
Thank you.
His first time on Neighborhood News.
It's been since college. I've been called out like this to read. I was like, oh, how do I pronounce that fucking word? Fuck.
He's getting his theater skills. He used to do some theater out there, so dusting it off.
Thank you.
Continue on. Sorry.
Then, in a gesture that must have been designed to display his capacity for irony, Bush named Henry Kissinger to head the 9/11 Commission. And our postmodern global village
clean up on aisle 6.
Kissinger. In our postmodern global village filled with 24-hour news channels, we know far less about the life of Muhammad Atta than we did 40 years ago about Lee Harvey Oswald. Why is that? One plausible explanation is that there has been a government-imposed media blackout. One of history's greatest crimes has gone without serious public examination or investigation. Given the immensity of this tragedy, we find this reluctance to investigate more than inappropriate. It's suspicious. What are they trying to hide? Late in a 2-year investigation in Venice into the training of the terrorist hijackers, our suspicions were confirmed by the chairman of the Congressional Intelligence Committee, which investigated 9/11, Senator Bob Graham. Frankly, there is a piece of information which is still classified, which I consider to be the most important information that's come to the attention of the Joint Committee. Graham said on CBS's Face the Nation, I was surprised at the evidence that there were foreign governments involved in facilitating the activities of at least some of the terrorists in the United States. We hope that it will be declassified. I think it is an important part of our judgments as to where our greatest threats are and what steps we need to do to protect the American people here at home, Graham said. His Republican co-chair, Senator Richard Shelby, indicated that the unease was bipartisan. Time is not on our side, Shelby said. You know, we were told that there would be cooperation in this investigation, and I question that. I think most of the information that our staff has been able to get that is real meaningful has had to be extracted piece by piece. There is explosive information that has not been publicly released. I think there are some bombshells out there, said Shelby. I know that. Pressed for detail, Graham told reporters, most of that information is classified. I think overly classified. It will become public at some point when it's turned over to the National Archives, but that's 20 or 30 years from now.
That's us right now. You know,
Yeah.
it's been that long. So now we're finding out.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Kissinger was so instrumental. Another gentleman who was on the 9/11 report, who everyone should know, and they probably know, is Joshua Lederberg, who was actually a microbiologist or a biologist, or I don't know. Just this gentleman deserves your dive in the research. If you have not heard of Joshua Lederberg, he was I think he was in charge of the 9/11 Commission. Actually, I think it was Kissinger passed it off to this gentleman. So but yeah, continue on. Yes, sir.
To remain a republic, a representative democracy, Americans should hear the truth a lot sooner than that. We should hear it now. One reason for the widespread distrust of the official explanation of the 9/11 attack, there are dozens, is the truly shocking fact that the FBI never finished its 9/11 investigation. Less than a month after putting a 4,000-man FBI task force on the case, President Bush called off the FBI's investigation into the 9/11 terrorist conspiracy on the pretext that the manpower was needed to fight the anthrax threat, then in the headlines daily. When the anthrax scare was over, however, the FBI did not go back to finish its 9/11 investigation. After announcing their massive presence on the case, we never heard from the FBI in any meaningful way again. Nor was any report ever issued to the American people of their findings, even though Bush administration spokesmen like Secretary of State Powell promised they would. There is one small ray of hope. After Dallas, it took 20 years before polls showed a majority of Americans no longer believe the official story of a lone gunman in the Kennedy assassination. But there is already a pervasive and widespread skepticism about the official explanation for the 9/11 attack. The skepticism is visible everywhere, except strangely enough in our national media. Lily Tomlin said it best. No matter how cynical I get, she said, I just can't keep up. Time is not on our side, said Republican Senator Shelby. The same sentiment was put poignantly a few years back at the launch of George magazine. Its founder, JFK Jr., was asked if he would use his new magazine to investigate his father's murder. No, he said. Too much time had passed. Time, he said, is the great enemy of the truth. He was right. Jeez, I remember when that plane went down too.
Oh, JFK Jr.'s
yeah,
life.
that was insane.
Dude,
Looking for like that was a crazy day.
I mean, there's
too.
so many people too who think
What?
he's still alive, and he's just like in the witness protection program,
I don't know.
which I wouldn't that be great if so many of these people we thought were gone were in the witness protection program, and then they just magically reappeared one day, and it's like, yeah, all right, here's the real story.
They could bring out avatars and mass fakes too, you know, so you never really would know.
No,
That
probably they just killed him. I mean, you're right. I mean, they probably just killed JFK Jr. because he was too, just, yeah,
He's a
absolutely.
namesake right there.
But sorry, continue on. Yeah.
Sorry.
Mhm.
The memory of 3,000 dead people commands us to do the best we can to find the truth about how it is they came to die on September 11th, 2001. Today, the clear task in front of us is to deconstruct the official story about the 9/11 attack in as close to real time as possible. In the absence of a free press, the job becomes more difficult. Although there are a dozen burning questions about 9/11 worthy of book-length investigation, we chose to focus on just one. Muhammad Atta in Florida. Who, what, when, where, why. We did it because we have not received an explanation we find satisfactory from our government. In fact, it appears as if they think we don't deserve one. Nor have the supposed perpetrators been brought to justice. When people at Ground Zero cheered President Bush as he stood amid the still smoldering ruins, they weren't cheering for regime change in Iraq, wrote Maureen Dowd in the New York Times. They wanted the head of the Osama bin Laden. We still haven't gotten it, at least as of this writing. We thought bringing Osama bin Laden to justice was our whole objective in Afghanistan. Apparently, we were mistaken. The actions of the CIA and American military commanders in Afghanistan, as reported in the New York Times, do not reflect an emphasis on rigorous pursuit of Osama bin Laden, even when he was right where he had to be. In a September 30, 2002 front page article, the Times reported that people who were on the ground in Afghanistan during the siege of Tora Bora believe U.S. commanders were not act with anything like the zeal you'd expect from people whose mission was hunting down America's most wanted man. It's interesting to read this about and seeing it in back times that the whole Osama bin Laden went down and when he truly did, you know.
And but then was that really Mohammed, Osama bin Laden that they had killed? Was that whole thing true? You just don't know on any of this. Like because like this surprised me here, with that Otto was in Venice, Florida, because I was thinking back that he was on the other side of the state in like Deerfield Beach.
Oh no, definitely Sarasota.
Okay. That's just
This guy who was in this photo died. It looks like so many people, so many stories. FDNY firefighter Bob Beckwith, who stood beside President Bush at Ground Zero, dies in 91. Wow. And I wonder when that was. I mean, I guess probably in the last few years. But yeah, iconic photos. I mean, just iconic. All sorts of it from our. Finish us up here, page or two. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. American forces in Afghanistan, the Times reported, have not been helped by the suspicion here at Tora Bora, where bin Laden was all but trapped. That indecisiveness on the part of American commanders, or perhaps reluctance to risk casualties, may have helped him escape. If bin Laden fled to Pakistan, the article continues, he did so over snow-choked mountain trails that were not blocked by American or other Allied troops until after the bombing. An oversight that some of the Allies point to as having squandered the best opportunity of the war to snare America's most wanted man. Within weeks, high-ranking British officers were saying privately that American commanders had vetoed a proposal to guard the high-altitude trails, arguing that the risk of the firefight in deep snow, gusting winds, and low-slung clouds were too high, said the Times. Similar accounts abound among Afghan commanders who provided the troops stationed on the Tora Bora foothills on the north side of the mountains facing the Afghan city of Jalabad. Continued the Times story. Those troops played a blocking role that left the Qaeda fugitives only one escape route, to the south over the mountains to Pakistan. One Afghan commander told of pleading with special forces officers to block the trails to Pakistan. Their attitude was, we must kill the enemy, but we must remain absolutely safe. That warlord Zahar, this is crazy. We were incredulous. Low-slung clouds. The snow was too deep. It seems inconceivable that America's special forces would have backed down or insisted on remaining absolutely safe in a fight to capture the leader of the forces that attacked America on 9/11 and took 3,000 innocent lives. An order to stand down, if one was given, must have come from above. So incompetence and the failure to bring to justice the chief criminal in the 9/11 attacks is not the worst possible scenario we would be forced to consider. The worst possible scenario, supported by available facts, would be that the failure of U.S. commanders to capture Osama bin Laden may have been willful. 2 years ago, 3,000 of our number perished in a gruesome and horrible ways. It seems clear that if we want to know the truth about the otherwise unremarkable September morning, we will have to find it ourselves. The only thing I can think of worse than having to watch people dropping out of the windows 100 stories above Manhattan is having to watch it and then having your own government lie to you about who did it and why. Jeez, oh boy.
That's where we're at.
That really puts it into drives it home, doesn't it?
Yep.
I can't tell you I know why they're lying, but in the coming pages, I believe I can prove they are. Whew.
Here we go. Yeah. Hopsicker was good, man. He is the best. So leaves you on a cliffhanger. Hopefully we left you guys on a cliffhanger. We'll be coming at you.
So he wrote this in, in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it'll demonstrate how prescient he was in what he was seeing then and what's coming out now. Because we're in the 20 to 30 year period now that this has passed. And
Yeah, absolutely. What I would like to do actually here, I found a video of this Rudy Decker's, or Rudy Decker, not Decker's, Rudy Decker, the owner of the Dutch owner of Huffman Aviation, which is where the pilots trained. And I think I'd like to leave us on that. So
Totally
we can get
on that recall too.
no, it's okay. There's so much.
I'm like,
That's why I told you got to watch these shows
Yeah.
after we do them. Some, you think you're soaking it in during the show,
I
and
was
then
definitely
you don't
soaking it
realize
in.
how much you're
Enlightened
you know.
twice by the same fact.
But this is a little
You know what I
ABC,
mean?
a little
Blew my
ABC,
mind, dude.
an ABC News Action News report about Rudy Decker and the September 11 attacks, and you get to hear a little bit from him in his own words, it looks like. And so we'll watch this just to give us more background information for the chapters ahead. Again, welcome to Terrorland by Daniel Hopsicker, the story of Muhammad Atta. This is for sale. Shout out to Trine Day Books, the publisher right there. Trine Day Books, the great Chris Milligan and his great company. So certainly, even though I guess Daniel Hopsicker is not around anymore to receive any royalties, certainly please do consider buying the book in paper, because paper books will be taken from us in the New World Order. So get it while you can, but definitely buy a book, or at least use get your Kindle, read along with us. And thank you all certainly for being in the live chat. So great to see you guys in the live chat. Rick and Mr. Green Jeans and Arthur and Freedom, and I hope I didn't miss anybody there. Jason, thank you. So yeah, awesome to have you guys here. And of course, tomorrow we'll be going live with George Webb, doing a show with him, getting the research out there. And yeah, Terry, thanks for being here. Thanks for reading.
Yeah,
Mark,
thank
any final comments here before I play this video? The Rudy Decker's video. Of course, there are tons of other videos if you want to look up Dan Hopsicker. Here is Dan giving a talk. This one's like probably, geez, I don't know how many years ago, but yeah, here he's definitely out there giving talks. You can find him on YouTube. All sorts of great stuff out there. So we'll play the Rudy Deckers and be coming back at you guys tomorrow. And thank you all for joining us tonight at Neighborhood News.
Good night.
Owned the flight school where the two men learned how to fly, sits down with ABC Action News to talk about his connection to the horrific events and also explain why he is so angry.
I was like everybody else, watching with like flabbergasted what the hell was happening. Was it an accident? Was it an attack? Was it a mistake? Was it a malfunction of an airplane? We didn't know. Next morning, September 12th, it's when my 911 started.
At 5:30 in the morning, Rudy Decker's got a call. The FBI wanted to talk about two students who would change Decker's life and the life of every American forever.
I had an outside body experience. I was floating in the ceiling and looking down on my body. I tell you, I cannot explain to you.
Rewind to July of 2000.
I was drinking a cup of coffee. They walked in and I said, "Can I help you, gentlemen?"
The men were Muhammad Atta and Marwan al-Shihi, pilots of the two planes that brought down the Twin Towers.
There was nothing that we could have seen that they were terrorists. I wish, because then I would have stopped it.
While Decker says he didn't know their motives, he knew he didn't like Atta.
He had an expression of dead men walking. I said to myself, my gosh, he's not buried yet, but that's the only thing.
Decker says Atta didn't follow instructions.
After 6 weeks, I set him straight, and I told him, if you do not behave, I'll kick you out. He didn't like that. I mean, he was very arrogant, and I don't think he liked it that I stepped on his toes.
According to Deckers, more than 60 people worked for him at Huffman Aviation in Venice. And during the nearly 6 months the men were there, no one ever guessed what they were up to.
Everything was normal for us. Nothing was a red flag.
And after the two left the school in December of 2000, Deckers, who owned the school, and his instructors who taught the men how to fly, continued on until Deckers got the phone call a day after the attack. He shares his story in Guilty by Association, and today the man from Amsterdam is struggling.
I tried to set up a new aviation company, but every time when I have to deal with FAA, they put the heel in the sand.
The former businessman who can't get a loan is angry.
It's not my fault what happened here. I did my business. I was hired for a professional job. I did my job. The United States government did not do their job, period.
On the flip side, though, some are angry with Deckers about writing a book.
I pledge that any dollar that I make more than my loss, I will give to a 911 fund.
And today, 10 years later, Decker says his thoughts are with the victims and families of the victims. He says he's not a victim, but his life will never be the same.
I lost everything, my friend. I lived the American dream. And 6 months after, I was nothing anymore.
Decker's plans to share his story by traveling to different speaking engagements, and he hopes that his book will help his speaking